Hello everyone, today I wanted to come back to one of my favorite films, a work that incites reflection and that moves by its great poetic melancholy, the most accomplished work of its author. I name Guillermo del Toro. To get the obvious out of the way right away, yes, the film is beautiful. As usual with del Toro, the frames are neat and sumptuous, the photography is impeccable, the actors are all top-notch, the same for the characters who all have to tell, and even the most unpleasant become somewhat pathetic. But I wanted to talk about the meaning that this film has for me, a point of view like many others. I would be grateful if you would not destroy me in the comments. You could publish your own interpretation instead. I am interested. Without further ado, here is the video. The film is subject to various interpretations given its richness. The comparison with Pan's Labyrinth, also by Del Toro, is not stolen. Some even see diptych with his two films. I see the two works obviously as a metaphor for the world of adults, surprisingly more chaotic, cruel, and vain than that of children. The image at most probed my soul in. The Devil's Backbone is out of the end, where Dr. Caceres, brilliantly interpreted by the late Federico Luppi, sees the children go far away while he remains on the porch of the orphanage. The world of adults, through its noblest representative, can only see the world of children towards its own future. The world of adults is already a ghost, as if punished for its cruelties. It must wander in place of the child, Santi, to watch over the place. Adults are only children playing at war, and children are adults trying to survive it. My interpretation is perhaps simplistic, but it is what came to my mind. The love and unresolved sorrows that are the backbone of the film can resonate in each of us. I find it extremely beautiful to be able to embody with so much flesh and conviction such universal torments in a low-budget film. Real narrative masterpiece, the reflection on ghosts can be applied to everyday life. We can identify with the characters without too much trouble. They are far from infallible and manage to move even the least sympathetic. A horrific atmosphere reminds me of little that of Jean-Jacques Anon's film, The Name of the Rose, with in particular the witnesses who were present during the fateful night, and many silent scenes in the long corridors at night, etc. I like to think that the bomb in the middle of the courtyard is not just a metaphor for the omnipresent war, but never fully shown. The bomb contrasts with another bomb that has not been diffused, namely Jacinto, the handyman of the establishment, an antagonist who almost clashes with the gothic tone of the film, but in line with Del Toro's very idea that evil is very attractive. Some compare him to Marlon Brando in The Streetcar Named Desire, but he reminds me more physically of Donovitz in Inglourious Bastards. Little joke. You can make it what you will. Anyway, Jacinto is the real bomb of the film, who literally blows up the orphanage, but he's not without characteristics that facilitate empathy. In one of the final scenes, he shows us two colleagues photographs of himself when he was younger with his family also on them. We can detect here, too, a stifled melancholy. He is also a child who suffered not from the war, but rather from being in an inferior condition, from having to rot in this place, as he himself says. His greed resonates with the fact that he is the son of a noble, but that he did not have such a bright future. But in the end, his greed will literally drag him to the bottom of the abyss, with the ghosts of his past, and the gold that will sink him, leaving surface-only photographs blurred by the water, in which only Dr. Caceres will visibly remember, since he mentions it in his monologue. Caceres, too, is cut off from his romantic ambitions towards Carmen, the director of the establishment, played by the late Marissa Peretz. She who carries her wooden-like burden, Caceres, who carries his love for her with the same suffering, although she is more pragmatic and down-to-earth than Caceres. She appreciates his poetry, the ethereal parenthesis in deathly and dreary context. Poetry that will accompany them both until death, since the doctor will push his reflection on ghosts until he becomes one, thus closing an existence where only poetry has managed to maintain him, and which now accompanies him for the rest of his days, if I may say so. I'm not even talking about the many objects Del Toro instills in the story. I don't know their meanings, to be honest. As said earlier, the children in the film are forced to grow up faster than expected. James, a detestable child at first, wins the sympathy of the audience, and from Carlos, it quickly becomes clear that the bully on duty knows something about the events that are unfolding. He too follows the plot of unresolved love, which will push him to no longer be afraid of Jacinto and to finish him off. Carlos, on the other hand, is a more classic character, the hero with 1,001 faces. Although he is a good representative of this cliché, his journey also consists of growing up, but to be of the same status as the other children in the orphanage, and to learn to no longer count on his guardian, on an impossible return of his father who died in combat without him knowing it, or on adults in general. The fact of having to literally face your fears, or talk to the ghost to know how to avoid the coming catastrophe, encapsulates well the idea of a world so harsh that you have to call on your fears to prevent the worst from happening. I could dwell on the magnificent frames through the porches or windows, black frames surrounding barren landscape where the future is only feverish and distant dream, to the haunting music of Javier Navarrete, but I will stop there with this final note. It's strange that Cruel, harsh, and hopeless film can make me feel good after watching it, intense and even quite distressing at times. The Devil's Backbone is a real cinema experience, the film that touches, that scares, that makes you think, that is universal. That's what I look for in cinema. Films that make us question ourselves, that resonate with us to the point of being inspired to become something other than a blurry photograph on an old piece of furniture gathering dust and destined for oblivion.